雪玉. Ladies and gentlemen, and venerable Master Zheng and the masters, and everyone online, good day. And today, I'm gonna be sharing with you about the Master Zheng Yan's blueprint. And my topic is don't forget about the March 11th earthquake 10 years ago. We know that in Japan, and we had like a tsunami and an earthquake like just more than 10 years ago in Japan. 10 years ago, 2011, on March 11th, we had like a strong earthquake measuring 9.0 on the Richter scale, and it hit Japan really hard. And it was a compound disaster because it brought not only earthquake but also tsunamis and radiation. And it was also a nuclear disaster, and because we have a big disaster, okay, in Fukushima. And at that time, it was cold then, so Mr. Zheng was very worried, and she was worried about the victims in the shelters and whether they got enough clothes to keep them warm. So we produced a thick and bigger showers in hope that we can give our love to Japanese citizens, right? However, Japanese people are a kind of a conservative, and it is a little bit difficult. It was a little bit difficult for Tzu Chi volunteers to send a love to Japan. Therefore, our relief aid program was a little bit like, it didn't go very smoothly. And we didn't know how to send of our relief aids to victims in need. But Mr. Zheng Yan told us that we can only get in touch and we can only get close to their heart only with our genuine love. So Tzu Chi volunteers turn our own minds that, okay, we decided to change our attitude. And let's take a look at whether we made it for the second time. Okay, so video, please. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so it was the second time. Okay, we were allowed to get into the refugee, but we only stayed at the porch, and just one representative just came over for us to take all the relief aid there. And they knew that we were from Taiwan, and we witnessed that most of them were like aged citizens. And when we just put on the showers on them, and they just cried in tears, right? And all the senior citizens were just touched by us, right? And so we hugged them, and they also hugged us. And of course, then all the volunteers could therefore just get into the refugees, and we just moved in all the relief aids for them. And for the first time, they saw us, and they learned that we were from Taiwan. And it was the very first time that they received our blessings and love. And we really created a very, very good bridge of love between them. So this was a very, very good beginning. So when we reached the third point, okay, of and everything just went smoothly. So from then on, wherever Tzu Chi volunteers go, and we just put on all the showers on every citizen, and this like a granny just cried also in tears. Although volunteers didn't know anything in Japanese, but they communicated with each other in love, with love. And it was the film produced by Dai TV, and we learned that so many senior citizens were just deeply touched after they received our love. And it was because of the love of all from Taiwan. And we have a lot of more touching stories. Yeah, and for example, and was a volunteer from China, and she married a husband in Japan. And 10 years ago, she encountered such a disaster of like March 11th earthquake, and a lot of her families were therefore drowned by the tsunami in the disaster. And after the accompanying by Tzu Chi volunteers, and this lady just finished all the training programs of the Tzu Chi commissioner, and she always carried her pictures and her mom's picture, although she was dead, and did the good deeds with us in Tzu Chi. And the volunteers all over the 39 countries just gathered on the street, and we decided to just collect as much love as we could to help all the victims in Japan. However, Mr. Zheng Yan says, Tzu Chi volunteers must endure and practice patience no matter how much like a hardship and how much difficulty we may encounter on the street. So now let's listen to Mr. Zheng Yan's preach. Tzu Chi volunteers endure people's angry faces and their mean comments. Truly, Tzu Chi volunteers endure such treatments and face them with smiles. And such is Tzu Chi volunteers' cultivation ground. For the sake of living beings in suffering, they must endure people's meanness. Yet they are mindful in raising funds because they can't bear to see people suffer. And such are the skills of living bodhisattvas. And this is why every time there is a disaster, Tzu Chi volunteers must practice forbearance. I always say, this is living bodhisattva's cultivation ground. We want to cultivate the way of the bodhisattva. Bodhisattva come into being because they are living beings who are suffering. The cultivation ground of living bodhisattvas is living being in suffering. To serve and help living beings, then we have to endure a lot of things and to overcome many difficulties. Thank you, Mr. Zheng Yan, for her preaches. Mr. Zheng Yan teaches us that we Tzu Chi volunteers must walk into crowded and always practice forbearance and patience, and we have to bear the Dharma in mind. And 10 years later, and a lot of Japanese local volunteers are so much willing to participate in Tzu Chi. And we are all together working on the Bodhisattva path. And now let's take one more look at this video about how happy the volunteers are in Japan and how they are doing against COVID-19 and how they are promoting the vegetarianism. So, ladies and gentlemen, please take a look, right? And we also have two guests here in the video. Take a look, please. After I finish donating my coins, no matter how much it is, I save the money because I pray for the blessings for my family every day, and I didn't think I have done anything special. And I say I'm just touched by Tzu Chi, and I just want to do something and help do Tzu Chi volunteering jobs. Well, if you are blessed, and this is very, very wonderful. And wherever we need Tzu Chi volunteers, then we have Tzu Chi volunteers. And here are the volunteers introducing themselves. And they are talking, they are saying, they're telling us like what their names are. And we are the volunteers from Japan. Thank you very much. And they are very happy local volunteers, right? Well, 10 years passed by really quickly, but Master Zheng Yan teaches us that we don't just stay in the past, that we have to look into the future and do something. And today, we see cherry blossoms in my PowerPoint. And whenever such flower blossom and they look beautiful, and it symbolizes that we have to cherish the love in our life and do good deeds to help people. And go vegetarian, protect the life, and diligently create blessings, and join hands to spread the love with faith, vow, and actions. And this is a topic in 2022. So let's just go steadfastly and be diligent and walk the Bodhisattva path with Mr. Zheng Yan and the good deeds. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much, Xue Yu. And she is a very, very wonderful guide reader, and she gives us a very wonderful presentation there. And whenever I say, okay, it's time for you to do something, and she just does this really, really completely, and she did and does all the presentations and the preparation jobs, all right, always before, okay, I tell her to do so. And let me tell you this, in her films just now,